if you happen to have Showtime or you have some other means in order to see some of the programming on Showtime. In 2015, I believe Oliver Stone did a documentary called The Untold History of the United States. I watched it. It was incredible. It was mind blowing because we found out, if you watch this, that historically history repeats itself. And during the 1930s into the 40s and the New Deal was democratic socialism. And FDR, I don't know if FDR was all that into helping regular people as much as he saw the necessity of it in order to maintain the system. And that's what people don't understand today. Since Ronald Reagan and the greed that was fostered by uh, uh, the ideology of Reaganism and trickle down economies, what have you, we have moved towards this total corporatization of our government. If you don't take corporate money out of the government, you cannot have a balanced democracy. It's very simple. You have to face it and deal with it, and history speaks to us in regards to this. In the days of FDR, they called them New Dealers. Those New Dealers would be comparable to what they call Bernie Bros, or people that are for helping other people. It is an astonishing thing to me that when you look at the politicians that we have in Washington today and look at their record, they'll give hundreds of millions of dollars for tax breaks for companies that already make too much money and are not properly taxed, which is our oil and gas companies, for example. There might be some level of nationalization that needs to be in these commodity areas, and that's not under consideration. We have uh, a relentless line of corporate malfeasance that's never brought to question. So a man could go on the street and have a toy gun and rob a bodega in the Bronx and end up doing more jail time than somebody who did something in Wall Street. The SEC is toothless. Our Justice Department seems to be toothless. The last guy that was really going to try to do something, Elliot Spitzer, who they called the Sheriff of Wall Street, suddenly got caught up in a situation where he was with a $3,000 a night prostitute. So any chance that they had based on the information that he had already garnered on illegal activities in Wall Street all went down this path that no one was going to see. Very similar to the Epstein case, where all of a sudden the cameras are not working and Epstein gets hung. Actually, he's garroted, because if you look at the pictures of his neck, it's a garrote. It's not a cloth that had make a thin line into your neck and kill you. So at the end of the day, what we have here is we have a situation where the level of corruption has reached a high mark. But I want you to take you back in history and look at the Oliver Stone documentary, The Untold History of the United States. And recently, he just did a follow-up, which is called JFK Revisited. And then that brings us to another piece, which I will continue to tell people about, and that is this book. This book here is a incredible book that took 20 years to build. It was done by Tom O'Neill. And if you want to watch on Joe Rogan's podcast the discussion regarding this, you see a clear effort to take the Kennedy sons out by any means necessary. And if you want to add to the argument, you want to read a book by David Talbot called The Devil's Chessboard. And in that, he goes into more detail on how John and Foster Dulles, the Dulles brothers, were very much instrumental in to putting together all the things necessary to kill a standing president in the United States of America. So he makes a strong argument in this book. I happen to agree with it 100%. And certainly the legacy of Mr. John F. Kennedy was that he saved us from a Third World War, because there were men that were coming into his office that were telling him, you need to use tactical nukes in your own hemisphere, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm glad he rejected that, and that's why we're here to say what we're saying today. So thank God for John F. Kennedy. Thank God for Robert Kennedy. It's unfortunate that two brothers in the same decade could be killed by a lone gunman, which shows you that that has to be complete and utter bullshit. So we need to work and fight our way out of the situation that we find ourselves in, and to bring democracy back to the United States of America.